Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, and in today's video I am doing another technique for using bullet nib markers, and I am doing some pixel art. And pixel art is originally a digital art form. You do it with software. There's loads of different software that you can use, but you can also do it traditionally as well by using some squared paper, which I have here, and I just got a refill pad of squared paper, which is just normal printer paper with squares printed lightly on it. This is kind of the stuff you would have in maths classes. I remember this paper in my maths books, and you had to always write one number per square, which I was never very good at doing. But anyway, yeah, I got a A4 refill pad of this, although I cut it down because it had holes in the side. I cut it down to cut these out, and also because I didn't want to do a big A4 piece because I knew this would take quite a long time colouring in all the little squares. So I also planned this piece out before I started, and it's a good idea to have a plan because I had a big wad of this square paper, so I had plenty of paper. So I cut one down to the same size and blocked out all the colours first. That's what I'm doing here. I'm blocking out the eye of the bird, and I also blocked out all the different colours, the coloured sections of the bird, like the beak, the head, and then the rest of the feathers, because this made it so much easier when I came to colouring in on the final piece. So yeah, once I had planned it out, I counted the squares and I counted along, and then along the bottom to start the bird, and I just kind of counted the squares of the outline. I did the outline bits first, and this made it a lot easier to colour in. And I'm also using my crayola markers for this because the paper is just like standard printer paper, so you can't really use alcohol-based markers on this. Well, you could, but it would probably go through quite quickly. So I use my crayola markers, which I used in my last video, and I really like these markers, and if you missed that video I'll leave a card up above. But yeah, it worked quite well with these water-based markers, although these crayola, they are super tips, but they are quite thick on the ends, so it was quite difficult sometimes in getting inside the squares, if you know what I mean, because I'm a little bit impatient, so a couple of the squares are a little bit dodgy, but on the whole they work quite well. So like I said before, pixel art is a form of digital art created through the use of software where the images are edited on a pixel level or square level. A pixel basically is one little square. And the aesthetic for this art comes from early computers, so 8-bit and 16-bit computers and video games, and also graph calculators apparently. And that kind of fits because this paper that I'm using is graph paper. Well, not quite graph paper, but squared paper for maths. Anyway, pixel art is also quite similar to other traditional art forms such as cross stitch and mosaics, and you could always look for a cross stitch pattern if you want to try this yourself. There are plenty of free cross stitch patterns that you can follow online. Just have a little Google search, and if you don't want to break down the image yourself, because it is quite hard to break down the image into lots of little squares and to colour it in properly. I had quite a lot of trouble colouring this in with the pixel shapes. It was quite difficult to break it down. So if you do want to have a look for a cross stitch pattern to use, you can do that because that is done on squared paper, so it'll be easy for you to transfer it. And it's also quite similar to perler beads or hammer beads, you know, the beads that you put on the pegboard and you iron. So you could also follow a pattern for that as well if you want to. You can just follow that and colour in the square rather than colour in the circle bead shape, if you see what I mean. But yeah, pixel art is quite popular. It's quite popular in digital art today. Quite a lot of people do it. I've seen quite a lot of people do it, and I have a lot of respect for people who do this because I've only done one piece of pixel art and I got bored very quickly with the background. But I did enjoy it as well, but it was quite tedious because I'm quite an impatient person. So yeah, I have a lot of respect for you if you're a pixel artist. If I had a hat, I would take it off to you. So the reason that pixel art is a good technique to use when using bullet nib markers is that you don't obviously have to blend the colours together to get a gradient, because you are just colouring in lots of individual little squares to make up the picture. But this does mean that you have to think really carefully about what colours you're going next to each other, because otherwise the image will get lost. And I did really struggle in this image with that, because the bird, once I'd done the bird, I thought it looked fine, it looked really good, and I wanted to add a background, and this is where things got a little bit tricky, because the bird almost got a little bit lost. So that is why I ended up using my white gel pen. I used my white gel pen to outline the bird, to separate it from the background, to separate it from the browns, because I wanted to make a tree and grass and bushes kind of garden in the background, but it didn't really work as well as I'd hoped, and I think I probably could have done better with the background. I could have thought a little bit harder about the colours I was using, because the bird does get a little bit lost. From far away it looks fine, but I did prefer the bird when it wasn't with the background, like on the picture for the thumbnail for example. I think that looks better than the final product. But let me know what you think. Let me know if you think I could have done a different background, or whether you like the background. And also adding the white gel pen on top was really quite good, because although it's opaque, it's not fully opaque, and it does soak into the water-based marker a little bit, so you don't just get a plain white, you get a pastel-y colour of the colour underneath it, if that makes sense. And this did help with the contrast, because contrast again is very important when it comes to pixel art, because you need to be able to see where the shapes are. And I achieved the contrast with the dark brown around the bird, and I think that helped a little bit to make the bird stand out, but again I don't think it was very effective. And I also used some really dark blues and greys within the bird itself to try and get some contrast, and I was really happy with all the different colours and the gradients in the bird's feathers. I really liked all the different colours, all the greens and the yellows and the oranges and the blues. I think they worked really well. But yeah, I think the background I could have done a lot better with. So if you are new to my channel, welcome. My name is Katie. I make art videos, I do challenges, speed paints, advice, tips, all the kind of things you would expect from an art channel really. And I have my own little mouse character called Charlie McNeil. He hasn't appeared for the latest couple of videos, but he'll be coming back soon, because I am doing Inktober again this year, and I'm going to do the prompts and Charlie again like I did last year. So look out for that in October, and go and check out Charlie if you are interested to find out who he is. I'll leave a playlist in the card above. And this video is part of a series on techniques for bullet nib markers, because bullet nib markers get a little bit of a bad press in the art world, and they are not too bad, and they are good markers for starting out, and you can do quite a lot of good techniques with them. So I will leave a link to the playlist at the end of the video if you want to go and check out the other techniques. And if you like this video, emotionally, please do leave it a like down below, as that really helps me out. And also leave a comment as to whether you've tried pixel art before, whether you like it, whether you find it hard, whether you find it boring, and let me know how you think I did too. So if you want to try this yourself, I recommend starting off simple and working your way up to more complex pictures. I was probably a little bit too ambitious in this picture, and that's why the background didn't work out as well as I wanted it to. And don't forget to plan it out first like I did, and you could also use a light box to overlay the image if you want to from your plan, so you can get a perfect match. But I didn't do this because I didn't want to use the light box while filming the whole video, because I didn't think that would look very good with the colouring in. It would have been fine for just line art, but not so much with colouring in the pixels. So if you try this technique yourself, or any other technique from this series or any other video, do please tag me in social media, because I would love to see what you come up with. All the links are in the description below. But coming to the end of the video now, and here is the final result. It does look a little bit better when the camera moves further away, and do let me know in the comments below how you think I did. But that's all for today's video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next Thursday. Bye for now.